Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Headspace More Than Mental Health Support webinar. I am Brenna Moore, a Mental Health Program Officer with Central and Eastern Sydney PHN. Also with us from Central and Eastern Sydney PHN is Belinda Ivanovsky, Clinical Director, National IAR Support Project and Mental Health Manager. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians and sovereign people of the land across which we work. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water, and community and pay respect to elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd also extend that respect to Aboriginal colleagues who may be joining us tonight. Please note this webinar will be recorded and will be available on CESPN YouTube channel within the next couple of days. At the end of the webinar, the evaluation survey will pop up on your screens. And we appreciate your feedback. Please complete this to allow us to issue certificates of attendance. And just to note, submit questions to the speakers in the Q&A function throughout the presentation. To view this box, hover over the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And just to note, there are some upcoming events to take note of and some general practice networking events and some mental health services in the CESPN area. So this evening, we are joined by a panel of guests from the 5 Headspace centres in our region, including Julia Wiedemann, who is the clinical lead at Headspace Bondi Junction, who has been with the centre for 2 years. Nick Paulson, who is the clinical lead at Headspace Camperdown. She has been with the team for a little over 1 year. And Vicky Papa, who is the Community Development and Engagement Officer at Headspace Camperdown. She has been working at the service for 14 years. And Ed Lewin, who is the clinical manager at Headspace Hertzville. He is a registered psychologist by background who has been with the team for 5 years. And Adrian Comensoli, who is the clinical manager at Headspace Miranda. Adrian has been with the centre for 4 years, previously clinician and clinical educator. He is also a registered psychologist. And lastly, Lucas Smith, who is the operations manager at Headspace Ashfield, who has been with the centre for 5 years. Today, we will be looking at Headspace More Than Mental Health, the 4 streams, and then the centre snapshots for all 5 centres, and touch on the referral pathways, and then lastly, wrap up with stepped care and the IAR-DST. The learning outcomes will be learn about the 4 streams of the service available at Headspace centres in the CESPN region, discuss the principles underpinning the national approach to step care, and summarise the use of IAR-DST to generate a recommended level of care. So firstly, we'll move on to general health. I'll pass that to Julia.
Hi, everyone. So I'm, as Brenna introduced me before, I'm the clinical lead at Headspace Bondi Junction. And I wanted to give you a bit of an overview around general health at Headspace Bondi Junction and what we offer there. So in terms of what we offer, I mean, obviously it's a wellbeing centre, but a really big part of the service is that we do have general practitioners. So currently at the moment, we do have 3 really incredible general practitioners that really cover a range of different issues, whether it's physical or if it's wellbeing, but they really do offer that sort of preventative care model. So yeah, as I said, we offer those sort of services on site. We ensure that they're very youth friendly, they're accessible to a lot of young people. So in terms of our general practitioners, as I said before, we have 3 very dedicated GPs on site, currently 3 days per week. So sessions, usually I think the really great thing is that they're a little bit longer than your usual session that you would have with a GP. So they're ranging from 30 to 45-minute sessions. And they're not, they're welcomed quite warmly. They're not rushed out of the centre. And I think we do that so that the young person from the second they come in, whether they're receiving that mental health support or general health support, that they feel listened to and understood. And then basically all of our GP sessions are bulk billed through Medicare. And then the second thing that we offer in terms of general health, which is very, very popular, is the sexual health clinic. So part of the reason it's popular, I think, is that we really destigmatize the space. So we have lots of information about the sexual health clinic. We also have a lot of products throughout the space. So it's sort of this thing that we want young people to come in and not feel embarrassed accessing that service. So the sexual health clinic provides confidential support, screening, treatment, and education around sexual health issues. It's a free drop-in clinic from ages 12 to 25, not just 25, up until they age out at 26 years of age, which is also something that differentiates, I think, Headspace from other services. And they have to be Australian permanent residents or citizens, but there's also information that we can offer for those who aren't. Best part, no appointment needed, no referral. You don't have to have your Medicare card to access that service. So that's really great. So that's from Mondays and Wednesdays from 2 till 6 p.m. So that's a very quick overview of our general health that we offer at Bondi Junction.
Julie, we've got a question from Jennifer. What days are the GPs on site at Bondi?
That's a really great question because they've only just changed. So we have a new GP starting and she's going to be covering the days that we don't have a GP. So I would give you an answer, but that's about to change very soon. The goal is that we will be covering Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, maybe one day in the future. But if you call up the Headspace number, they can give you that. It's about to change pretty soon. So I think that's more of a watch this space.
I guess one of the common questions we get, Julia, is what if someone already has a GP and they want to refer into the centre? Or if someone comes in and sees a GP at the centre, but mentions that there is another GP, that they might have a family GP or something like that, because often young people don't necessarily want to continue seeing their family GP and they might come into centre. So what communication, I suppose, is there between a referring GP, or if a young person comes in and it seems like they've got more than one GP, what happens in that space?
It depends. Look, it's different from each individual. I think a really big part, we're very encouraging in terms of care coordination. We're really encouraging young people, if they've been seeing a GP for a while, I think that longitudinal sort of background information is so vital with a young person. So in particular circumstances, we're always encouraging continuing that relationship with a GP. But if for whatever reason, sometimes young people, exactly as you said, I've been seeing that GP for ages and it's more connected to my family. And even though we know these are confidential services, kids don't always believe that. So they worry about it. So if that's the case, we definitely can link them in with one of our GPs. In terms of communication with GPs, so we have private practitioners, which I'll talk to later. It's really ingrained in our policy that those private practitioners commit to writing letters. Well, I started off as a private practitioner, so that's quite helpful. But I do remember when I started, and it was very much like this is a really big part is communicating with local GPs. I think our having good relationships with the GPs around is really, really important. So that looks like sending the session 6 letters and then sending another letter at session 10 when we finished up. We not only do private practitioners communicate with GPs, but we've also got youth access clinicians that are happy to communicate, or myself, the clinical lead. So I'm, constantly talking to GPs around just providing information if it's needed, and if it's been consented to and they've signed that information. So, it sort of looks different with each individual, depending on the needs. Sometimes we work, like if it's something like an eating disorder, we might, and they already have pre-existing GPs. We definitely encourage that open, like that communication and talking to the young person about that. It's really important to involve multiple people from different services. So we definitely aim to do that.
One more question from Albert in
Yes.
the Q&A. The question is, are follow-up appointments available with the same GP if a young person wants it?
Yep. So depending once again on the individual, sometimes we have young people that want ongoing sessions with the GP, so we can actually book in advance. I always encourage, if it's a young person that's wanting to go to the GP for regular check-ins, that we do encourage to book every fortnight or weekly, whatever is needed. And if they request a particular GP that they prefer, then yeah, we make it happen pretty much. I mean, I think the most important thing is really getting the young people engaged and just enjoying the service. So if they build rapport with a certain GP, we make it happen. But there have been times where sometimes they want an appointment immediately and we can't necessarily follow through with that. And I've never actually had any complaints with our other GPs because they're all, I mean, I'm biased, but I think they're all quite great. So yeah, we try and always continue the same relationship. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Julia.
No worries.
Move on to mental health, which is, Nicola.
Thanks, Brenna. So I'll give a bit of an overview of Headspace National as a whole, and then I'll relate it back to Camperdown. So as we know, Headspace is designed specifically for young people aged 12 to 25, and its focus is firmly on early intervention. Young people can come in when they start noticing changes in their thoughts or feelings, behaviour or perceptions that are affecting their well-being. The aim is to reach them before these concerns escalate into a more severe mental illness, and to do that in an environment that feels safe and welcoming and youth-friendly. Anyone can refer to Headspace, young people themselves, families, carers, schools, GPs and other mental health professionals. At Camperdown, I'd say most of our referrals come in via online referrals or via phone referrals. We also get a lot of complex referrals, and they'll come to me as the clinical lead. And if a young person is deemed not suitable for the service, we always help them find appropriate referral pathways for them. Sort of sticking to that no wrong door Headspace policy. And I think that's probably quite important for GPs to know, that we never will turn a referral away. We will always support the young person and their families and carers in finding the most appropriate service for them. One of the most valuable aspects of the Headspace model is that it brings multiple supports together in one place, and centres will have access to various health professionals, creating wraparound care where mental health care is connected to the broader factors influencing a young person's life, and making it easier for them to get the right support at the right time. Currently at Camperdown, our MDT is made up of GPs, psychologists, mental health social workers, a nurse, a psychiatrist that we have fortnightly, a youth worker, a peer worker, occupational therapist, executive tutor, clinical educators, and an exercise physiologist. As you can see, we've got a really diverse range of disciplines, which enables us to tailor each young person's care individually. We also meet daily at our case review, and this is where we can brainstorm care and referral pathway options. We've also recently introduced a weekly reflective practice, which clinicians have found really beneficial. So Headspace also prioritises flexibility. Centres offer traditional face-to-face sessions, but they also provide telehealth options to support young people who need privacy or who are experiencing barriers to receiving care. For those who may not yet feel ready to walk into a centre or who prefer digital connection, Headspace provides national online and phone support through eHeadspace. So this service is staffed by trained youth mental health clinicians, and they offer web chat counselling, phone counselling, and moderated online communities that offer support and connection. Young people can access this from anywhere in the country, which is particularly important for those who are anxious, isolated, or living in areas without easy access to face-to-face services. Headspace also provides information and guidance to parents, carers, and friends, and this helps families understand what their young person is experiencing and how they can best support them through challenging times. An example of how we help provide this service at Camperdown is Camperdown and Ashfield Headspace centres. We are involved in a consortium meeting, which we hold quarterly. And that involves family, friends, young people, and various members of the community. And it's a place that people can come together, talk about issues and ideas relating to their community and their young people. Another essential part of Headspace's approach is its commitment to cultural safety and inclusion. And centres focus on creating environments that are affirming for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, LGBTQIA plus youth, and people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. At Camperdown, we're currently engaged with various external services where the focus is on decreasing barriers to care for our priority groups. And for example, we're currently engaged with Glebe Youth Service, and we're taking young Aboriginal people bouldering fortnightly to build trust and rapport with the service. Yeah, that's proved very popular. Headspace is also integrated into a much broader stepped care system. So in areas like Cessford, we collaborate with youth enhanced services and other commission supports to meet the young people's needs who present with more complex presentation. And I guess we often refer to this as these young people as the missing middle. And this collaboration strengthens pathways and reduces service gaps and ensures smoother transition for young people requiring more intensive support. So another example at Camperdown, we engage weekly with our LHD, with our Holistic Early Intervention team or our HEAT team, and we escalate care of more complex young people to them when needed. So I guess, these supports and services make Headspace a crucial part of Australia's youth mental health landscape and a valuable partner for GPs in recognising concerns early, supporting referrals and improving outcomes for young people.
In terms of accessing help, what are the pathways to access mental health support at a Headspace centre? Do you need a referral? Is there a form? Do you need mental health treatment plans? Can people just turn up?
Yep. So all of those, Belinda. So people can just walk in to the centre, and have an assessment on site from a youth access clinician. We also get referrals from GPs and from schools, and also from family and carers and young people themselves. Anybody can refer to a Headspace. You don't need a referral. Depending on how the different headspaces are funded, you'll have access to salaried clinicians, access to MBS clinicians or private practitioner, like Julia was talking about. Young people can come in and utilise mental health care plans in our as a referral pathway, but they also don't need to as well. And with our salaried clinicians, young people can be seen for generally up to 10 sessions with or without a mental health care plan as well.
Fantastic. We have a question from someone around the role of dietitians. So what is the thing? I guess this kind of relates to the comment earlier around multidisciplinary team care. So the question is, what is Headspace's stance on the role of dietitians in the team and in mental health?
We think here at Camperdown that the role of a dietitian is really important, and we're actually, in the process. I know Vicky's going to talk about it a little bit later with our centre snapshots, but Headspace runs a eating disorder mini clinic, and I know that we've got a huge amount of young people who are suffering from issues related to disordered eating, and the use of a dietitian would be hugely beneficial, I think, in most services. So we are, actively looking. Well, not quite yet, but we are. We would love a dietitian to come onto our team and to help support, particularly the eating disorders mini clinics. But we've also recognised that collaboration with the exercise physiologist as well would be a really sort of great collaboration as well. So we hope to then probably be able to report back a little bit more later in the future about the role of the dietitian at Headspace Camperdown, at least.
Thanks, Nicola. And we've got another question around that multidisciplinary team. And I guess this is broader than just for Camperdown, because the staffing mix at each centre can be different. So are there any credentialed mental health nurses or nurse practitioners employed at the Headspace centres?
That will be very different for each centre. Currently at Camperdown, I'm a mental health nurse and the clinical lead. I guess I guess it would depend very much from centre to centre. I don't believe we have a nurse practitioner, and Julia and the others will have to, yeah.
At Headspace Bonner Junction, we don't at the moment, but we are at the moment. We've got a lot of new positions that will be coming out, and obviously, it's ideal when hiring new positions that you want different clinicians from different disciplines. So ideally, that's what we'll be looking out for. But currently, no mental health nurse at the moment.
Great, thank you. No more questions on mental health in the Q&A.
Great. We'll move on to alcohol and other drugs.
Hey everyone, I'm Adrian, the clinical manager at Headspace Miranda, and I'll talk a bit about the drug and alcohol stream, more specifically for Hurstville and Miranda Headspace sites, but I'll try to talk about it broadly as well. So as many of you are aware, drug and alcohol use is usually seen alongside other mental health issues. So when we get referrals or young people with drug and alcohol issues, we do tend to work with their mental health as well. So at Hurstville and Miranda, we partnered with the Southeastern Sydney Local Health District, APHO and other drug services. So they're located at the Sutherland Hospital and St. George Hospital. And they are part of our consortium teams. So we work alongside them when we have young people presenting with drug and alcohol concerns. They provide a clinician from their teams offering AOD counselling to young people, specifically seeking drug and alcohol support. They can also, I guess, offer counselling for young people that might be still ambivalent or unsure whether they do want to address drug and alcohol, or they might not see it yet as a significant concern or a problem. So it's not always purely about, abstinence or, stopping their use. Sometimes it's more around harm minimization, psychoeducation, and just building motivation and confidence, and also looking at the full picture as well, and where it comes from, and also looking at the other mental health concerns too. So in terms of how we refer to the drug and alcohol clinicians, so we can directly refer them through our intake assessments. So if a young person contacts our centres and they're looking for drug and alcohol support, we can directly refer them straight to the clinician. Also, as well, if we are doing an intake assessment and the clinician has flagged that their substance use is potentially an area of concern, we might have that conversation with the young person and their family about what they would like to do for their substance use. Sometimes young people will decline, and maybe they're just not ready for it yet, or they don't see it as a problem, and that's okay. And we don't necessarily then refer externally or decline the referral. We would work alongside it and continue to work holistically. We might look at physical health as well, get the GP involved, or other services as well, and support the family too. The AAD clinician essentially are part of our headspace teams. So they when they're on site and also online, we can have regular case discussions. They join our case review meetings. There's a lot of joint care planning between headspace clinicians and the AAD clinician to ensure that wraparound and person-centered approach. Sometimes when there are that sort of dual diagnosis concerns, we might allocate a young person to a clinician for mental health issues and address that through brief intervention or sort of targeted treatment. And then alongside that, they might also have sessions with the drug and alcohol clinician to work primarily on that side of things. So currently the drug and alcohol clinician is available for 1 day per week on site at the centre. If they do require support other days, we usually then still refer them to the hospitals off-site. And that process is usually pretty straightforward. And we would also ensure that transition of care occurs. So if we do refer them on the other days, usually there would be a clinician at Headspace that would still be checking in with them and looking at other potential supports that they need. And like everything at Headspace, all sessions are free and confidential. And there's just another slide to go with it too. So when a young person presents with AAD concerns, usually we would be addressing the sort of mild to moderate presentations. And that might be young people that have sometimes binge use or recreational use, or there might be early signs of dependency, or if they are reporting or displaying significant withdrawals or cravings or physical effects, we would address that too with the GP. But yeah, like I said before, we would usually do some education about substances. We'd be looking at self-help strategies, harm minimization strategies, learning more about themselves or someone else that could be using or drinking as well. It's a very sort of supportive and person-centered approach. So we are not pressuring young people to stop their substance use. It's really led by them and what they're, I guess, ready for and what they're feeling that they're up for. It's non-judgmental. It's a safe space to discuss it. We also can do some relapse prevention. They also talk about the nature of relapse and understand that for young people, relapses are common. So sometimes young people will stay at Headspace for a while, and then potentially if the substance use worsens or increases, we might then look at in more intense supports. And so if they're on that more sort of moderate to high presentation, this might be people that display signs of dependency, or there's significant decline in functioning, or they're better suited to maybe inpatient supports or long-term supports. We might then refer externally. So this could include GPs. It could detox options. We might also consider residential rehabilitation, to Knox Foundation, and like I said before, the AAD team at the hospitals. So yeah, that's a summary of how it works at our centres.
Thanks, Adrian. So the question from earlier was specific to doctors. So whether or not there are drug and alcohol AOD specific doctors working at any of the Headspace centres.
At our centres, we have a GP that can assist with the early stages, and I guess general monitoring. But if we feel like they need more intense monitoring or support, we might look at external options where they can monitor it more frequently. And that's where we might look at the teams at the hospitals.
Extreme is work and study.
Cool. Thank you, Brianna. Hello, everyone. My name is Lucas. I am the operations manager here at Headspace Ashfield, but I'm also the manager of the IPS work and study program. The IPS program, the Individual Placement Support Program, is an evidence-based vocational rehabilitation model that we've adopted from American research into how we work with young people with their ambition in sort of employment and education. This model has been implemented into Headspace for over 10 years now, and only 50 centres deliver this model, which includes Ashfield, Bankstown, Penrith, and Bondi has a more educational sort of focus than an employment focus. The purpose of the IPS program is to really support young people with mental health challenges find work and education based on their preference. And my team and myself, we work with those young people to find their strengths, to find what's worked for them in the past and start to weigh up their options. So you can consider it like career counselling in one way, but it's a program that has been implemented in Ashfield since 2021, which COVID hit. So it's quite difficult to look for work around that period of time, but we have grown ever since. We do service young people between 15 and 25 years old. And for us, we follow the 8 principles that you can see on the screen. So I'll break those down for you. So the first one is competitive employment. Research says that if we help support young people look for jobs on the open market that anyone can apply for, that supports their mental health recovery, makes them feel inclusive, makes them feel part of the sort of normal society way of applying for jobs. So we look for jobs that are either on Seek, on Indeed, or just sort of handing their resumes into the shops. The next principle that you see here is zero exclusion. It doesn't matter where you're from, As long as you're putting up between the ages of 15 and 25, we can support you. Ideally, you'll need to have a working visa to be able to receive our support. But you can come from all different corners of Australia, and we will help you out. So there's no strict sort of criteria. As long as you fall into the age of 15 and 25 and are legally to work, we can definitely support you there. Next one is rapid job search. So essentially, we want to, once we have referrals come in, we really want to get them sort of moving. We want them to start looking for work. We want to start sort of building their vocational profile, start sort of building the resume, and just sort of using that momentum to start applying for jobs. Individualized support. All young people are different, so we'll make sure we individualize our sort of approach and our service to the young person, making sure we meet their needs. Another fundamental principle is the mental health integration. So all young people that are part of the IPS program will be also connected to a clinician, and we'll be collaborating with that clinician to sort of get that holistic approach and support for the young person. So myself and Roxy, the other vocational specialists, will be predominantly focusing on the career counselling, and then we'll be talking to the mental health clinician just to get the input on how we can support them on that avenue as well. Benefit planning, so that's Centrelink. So we want to support them around their Centrelink needs. Most young people that come to the program are receiving some sort of payments. Time unlimited, we want to make sure that they get the full amount of the service. So they will leave when they're ready to leave or until the age of 25. And the last one is employee engagement, which is we'll go talk to employers on behalf of the young people, build that relationship, and hopefully we're able to secure a job for them. Next one is initial appointment. So we'll do the vocational profile, get to know the young person, understand their strengths, personality. Once that happens, we'll go into job development. We'll start to plan, sort of target we will want to look at certain jobs for the young person. Next one is job support. That is once they get a job, we want to support them while they're in job, making sure that they got the resources and the support needed. And once they are ready to go and to leave the program, we'll exit them. So that's sort of the phase that we go through. Now, if there's a wait list, we will refer them to the online work and study option, in which the online work and study team will support them until a position or availability is free. For referral process, we don't take referrals directly from other organizations. We've got to take it internally as part of the model. So if a young person is interested, they'll contact Headspace Ashfield, and they will say they want to work and study program or be part of it, and a clinician will contact them and take them through the process. Work and study program has helped a lot of young people achieve their employment and education goals while supporting their mental health at the same time. So essentially, that is the work and study program there.
Thank you, Lucas.
All right.
So if a centre doesn't have an IPS program, like you mentioned, it's only in select centres nationally, but it is work and study is one of the 4 core streams of Headspace. What work and study support do Headspace centres offer in general if they don't have this kind of really great IPS ed and work program?
Yeah, of course. So other programs or other centres that don't have the IPS program will have a partnership with job service providers. So they could be Ostara, APM, those sort of external companies, organisations. So any young person that wants to get that work and study and then goes to a centre that doesn't have an IPS program, that centre will try and refer them to APM or a centre or job service provider outside of Headspace. Plus, there's the online work and study program as well as a second option. So alternatively, if a young person would like to meet their vocational specialist online through Zoom, that can also be arranged through the online work and study team as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lucas. You mentioned that Bondi has an IPS study support program. Julia, are you able to just speak to what that difference is then with what the IPS work program is?
Yep. So we have a we say IPSED, but IPSED worker who does basically. I mean, his session, in terms of the sessions that he offers, it's very much restricted to education support solely. So that looks different for each individual. So it might be support through university, it could be support through school, it could be support through finding work. So in terms of what Will offers, it might be ranging from helping seeking work and doing, things like resumes. The other thing that he might help with is working on, I guess, those social skills in interviews. But largely what he works with is really communicating with schools. And that might be communicating with diverse learning teams around getting special provisions for some of the kids that he sees. But it's really a very holistic approach around, I mean, I guess something that he says all the time is, we have a great education system, but not every kid fits perfectly into it. I mean, I know that was definitely the case for myself. It's the case for many people that the education system can be sometimes a bit restrictive and not cater to different needs. So I think that's Will's job largely, is to really, I guess, jump in there and be that middle man in those situations. He also does a lot of work with the Casper team. So we have our, regular weekly meetings. So he'll be attending those meetings so that he's aware of the needs of each individual. But yeah, he's done different things also. He does group work. So he's done library sessions out at Waverley Library. Sometimes he'll do joint sessions with other clinicians in the centre. So really it's around sort of working with how that young person presents and what they might need. It can be flexible, but it can also be applications for you through university and different things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty difficult question to answer. He's got very good rapport with young people. So there's kids lining up left, right and centre. But yeah, it's pretty diverse in what he does. But once again, it is more restricted solely to education.
Yep.
And if it goes outside of that realm, that's when he'll involve another clinician to do sort of joint sessions if needed. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
No worries.
And I'll just check the Q&A chat. We've got all of those questions answered. So over to you, Brenna.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for that. We'll now move on to the centre snapshots. And to kick things off will be Lucas again for Ashfield.
Yes. Yes. So great news. We've relocated to a new, better, brand new centre, and we're all excited about it. So we're now at 320 Liverpool Road, Ashfield, as you can see on the screen. And the purpose of the relocation is that we are growing as a centre. We've got, services, plenty of services that are growing, and we need the room and resources for that. So what we offer here at Headspace Ashfield is that we do have the youth access clinicians here, which will facilitate and conduct intake and assessments and brief interventions. So usually the first point of call for young people before they start their journey with Headspace. We also have mental health clinicians which they provide one-on-one intervention and service. And also they also deliver DBT workshops, which is planned and coming up very soon. We've got the new collaborative care access team, which is kicking off this year, and we're all excited to have them because we have peer support workers now sort of working with the missing middle. and mental health clinicians supporting that team as well. So we're very excited to have this service and this program available here at Headspace Ashfield. So we've got the Heat team, the holistic. Sorry, it's one of those nights. Heat team, which it encompasses of psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and from the Sydney LHD. They also sort of work with the missing middle as well. We've also started the early career program. So we're giving graduates and students an opportunity to experience Headspace and to work as a YAC with young people here at Headspace. At the moment, we do have one student, and we are currently looking for a clinical educator to provide that supervision to that young one student. So this is an opportunity to sort of support up-and-coming social workers, psychologists, and get them to be exposed to mental health from a Headspace perspective. I've just spoken to you about the IPS Work and Study program. We currently have 2 general practitioners. One works on Tuesday, the other one works on Fridays. We've got 1 community engagement coordinator, so their primary duty is to go out in the community, engage with young people, organise events, activities, also interact with our youth reference group and get their opinion. Their input for the new centre was huge, and sort of gives you that sort of youth vibe after their input. And then we've got the backbone of our Headspace Ashfield, which is our admin team. So we've got 1 senior admin coordinator and 2 admin coordinators and 1 receptionist. So that's essentially the entirety of our team. Yeah, we are growing. We've got more clinical rooms, meaning now all these teams can now utilize these spare rooms, which is fantastic, and provide that service that young people deserve.
We'll move on to Bondi Junction.
Right. So in terms of what we offer at Bondi Junction, it's a very much changing space at the moment. But we'll start off with mental health and wellbeing support. So you've probably, I feel like it's repeating it a little bit. There are some similarities between Headspace centres, and then slight differences. So we have our awesome youth access clinicians. The youth access clinicians will do what we call treatment planning sessions. So this is a very extensive biopsychosocial assessment that's completed on each young person before they, access services. Now, also our youth access clinicians can offer what we call early treatment sessions. So that is 1 to 6 sessions. Really, what these sessions are about is more, we might have referrals for young people that need to work on social skills, or they might need emotional regulation skills. So that's what those sessions would be used for. It's more about supporting young people while they're on the wait list, or that might be their full package of care, and it's just around really improving those sort of more mild concerns. So we have our private practitioners. We have 3 currently. We have 3 youth access clinicians. We have our private practitioners. So we currently have 2. One private practitioner is about to go up to 4 days, and the other one is working 1 day. These are our Medicare sessions, so they'll have 1 to 10 sessions under Medicare. We may have another clinician coming on, another private practitioner, fingers crossed. Then we have our senior mental health clinician. Now, at the moment, we don't have anyone in that role, but we will be recruiting for, I think there'll be about 3 senior mental health clinicians. These clinicians are there to offer a more flexible model. So we'll always start off with 10 sessions, and then if it's needed, based on that clinician's assessment, we can extend those sessions. And this is for those more complex, presentations where there might not be just one concern, there'll be other comorbidities. And it means that senior clinician is able to see the young person more frequently also. We have finally got a psychiatrist on board, so that's 1 day a week. We're really happy about that. And then we have just recently, and it will be until June 2026, possibly extending it depending on, we never know. But right now we have a PSS clinician. Now that PSS clinician is through the PHN. It's very new, as I said, and they've come on board in response to the recent critical incident in Bondi, the shooting. So they're there to see they're prioritizing people that were at Bondi at the time, and that's really a great addition to the team. I spoke about the physical health care, so we have our 3 GPs, currently at the moment covering over 3 days, hopefully over 4 days soon, and then we have our drop-in sexual health clinic. As I spoke about before, we have our individual placement support and education worker, supporting young people through educational needs, and linking them with employment supports. And then we have our what we call our in-kind contributions. So these are different services that we work really closely with that are on our consortium. So we have a drug and alcohol worker that works 1 day a week, and she is from the Langton Centre. And then we have a family therapist that's just joined the team, and she's here 1 day a week also, and she's from Benevolent Society. We have our awesome community engagement officer that does everything around engagement, bringing young people into the centre, also working with YRG, but also helping with some of our group work. So we have a group called Craft Space. So that's on Wednesdays. It's not necessarily a therapeutic group. It's a group for young people to really come together and connect, and they're doing art, and it's really just increasing that community connection. So that's Wednesdays from 4 to 5 p.m. It's obvious it's completely free, 12 to 25. I'm based out in our front room at Headspace. We also have things like dinner group and, as I said before, study group, which is our IPSED worker supports. Another great thing that we have is we do outreach. So every Tuesday from 2 p.m. till 5:30, we work out of the Lexo Hub. So that is just so we can ensure that we're reaching all parts of the community and just making sure that Headspace is really accessible. Bondi Junction, it's most of the time it's easy to get to for young people, but there are certain kids that it is a little bit harder to get to, depending on where they're based. So we have, as I said, the hub at Lexo, and we work pretty closely with other services at the hub, and I think that really increases sort of working collaboratively and creatively, because if you're with a young person, you can involve other services while you're there. So I think that covers all. Oh, we also have a student that's just joined, but she's an art therapy student, and so she is also there 2 days a week. So it's great too. That's everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Julia. We'll just keep moving on then to Camperdown. I'll pass it to Vicky.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Vicky from Headspace Camperdown. It's been great to listen to what all the other services are doing in their snapshots, and thanks to all the GPs for being here this evening after such a long work day. So I'll give you a bit of a snapshot about Headspace Camperdown. I've been here a really long time, so I could probably talk about it for more than an hour. So I'd try and keep it to the 6 minutes. And then hopefully if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Like a lot of the other centres, we have a multidisciplinary team. And the first point of contact is usually with our, amazing admin staff that make the young people feel welcome when they first call the service. And kind of help them answer any questions. Like sometimes the young person may not even be ready to help seek, but they just have a couple of questions about how to access our service. And from there, if the young people are kind of more interested in help seeking, then they might be booked in for an intake assessment. With referrals from GPs and other external services, if they're coming in and the referrals are looking quite complex, they usually go to the clinical leads, and our clinical lead usually kind of has a look at that referral, and if it's looking like it's something that we're not going to be able to manage internally because there's like lots of comorbidities and it's going to need like longer term care, then that's where the importance of our external partnerships and relationships matter, because we don't want to be putting the young person through multiple assessments if we've got a partnering agency that can like stick with them for like 2 years, like say for example the holistic early intervention team down the road that works with young people who are quite possibly going to have longer term mental health issues, and they can stay with them for a really a much longer time. Within the service, we've also got like our mental health team consists of like mental health social workers, but also like with a psychologist, some are private practitioners, like working under Medicare. And we also have some salaried clinicians as well. And so that having that kind of model it is working for us so far. But also our youth access clinicians we're really kind of mentoring them to do more brief interventions. So they'll be seeing young people for like shorter term care, because not all young people are going to be needing those 10 sessions. Sometimes it might be a slight adjustment issue. They're gone from year 6 to year 7 and they just need a couple of sessions to kind of adjust into their new high school, for example. So I've listed there all the clinicians that we have, really similar to some of our other colleagues and centres. I've got there the eating disorders mini clinic. So with that mini clinic, we've got a current clinical psychology registrar, who that is her kind of like interest area and specialty, and we've been working up to now really closely with Inside Out at the Charles Perkins Centre at the University of Sydney, because I forgot to mention we're actually in the Brain and Mind Centre at the University of Sydney, which is like really a core part of what we do. Like that's our parent, I guess, organisation. Like all different headspaces have a different lead agency, and that one's ours. And so with the eating disorders mini clinic, the Inside Out, there was training through there and a lot of support, but also there's some UTS research happening through that mini ED clinic, because we're seeing a lot of young people with emerging eating disorders, and so we're trying to get to these issues early so that we don't want it causing like major disruptions in young people's lives. And we're also in the process of hiring a dietitian, as Nicola mentioned earlier, because we feel like that would be an amazing value add to assist in this process where we're trying to support young people with their eating issues, kind of try and get back on track and not cause as much disruption to their lives. With being here at the Brain and Mind Centre, there's quite a few research projects happening all the time, which, that can be a real benefit to the young people coming through. So at the moment, we've got some sleeping, the other important thing. So yeah, there's like a sleeping kind of research project happening at the moment. There's a lot of movement into like the AI space I can see coming with some of the other research projects. We've got the Empowered trial happening at the moment, which it's like an online, almost like assessment kind of tracking about the mental health journey of the young person and trying to get them involved in that. And there's a neurobiology long-term trial that's been going on for many years, which has been tracking young people who have been coming in, some of them since they were teenagers, and now they're like, in their mid-20s, just kind of looking at their journey, their mental health journey. So they come in for the neurobio, and that's a longer term. So the youth mental health team is managed by Professor Ian Hickey. So he's always got like quite a few research projects on the burn and more coming. But that's a whole presentation within itself. And so when I community development and engagement is, I guess, my area of passion, and it's something that I've worked in a really long time. And I guess one of the things I noticed here at Headspace Camperdown were the young people were coming in and receiving their one-on-one care, whether it was with an occupational therapist trying to improve their functional recovery, or their day planning, or it was a psychologist and they were doing CBT or DBT. Then a lot of these young people often went home and spent time on their own and were disconnected from friends and family and the community. And so I, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, started a really grassroots groups program here at Headspace Camperdown. And over the years, it's grown. And it's a mixture of psychosocial groups. And one of our most popular groups is the autism social group, because we're seeing a lot of young adults who are like later diagnosis of autism who don't have many social connections. But there's also like an LGBTIQA plus group, because we see a lot of young people identifying with the community, but also international students. And Nick mentioned before, we've been trying to reach out more to Aboriginal communities and find what is interesting to the young people in our communities, so we can try and connect with them on levels that they find interesting, to kind of build that trust and have it to be a more authentic experience. So all our groups basically are with the groups that we're seeing come through the service, or with groups we're wanting to see more of. A lot of the young people we see are university aged, as we are within USyd. Like across the road from our centre, there's an 800-bed student accommodation, the Queen Mary building. So yeah, as you can imagine, like the referrals are ongoing and incoming. But at the same time, because we want to be seeing young people 12 to 25, and early intervention prevention is I guess the goal, even though we are seeing more complexity due to the people coming through the door that don't have many other places to go. One of our focuses at the moment is like, how do we actually get to those 12 to 16-year-olds? So for example, we've teamed up with the Newtown Neighbourhood Centre, and they're doing some fantastic work about transitional, year sixes transitioning into year 7, like going that big change in life for them. They're seeing like increased like school refusal and things like that. So us trying to get in early and build resilience and, building their knowledge of mental health services and support services in the community. And there's also clinical groups, but young people can access those if they're already kind of accessing our service internally. I should probably talk about like referrals, like how people can refer to our programs. So like we've mentioned before, like people can just call up the service, but we've also added some buttons to our Headspace Camperdown page. So if young people want to refer to the groups, like we accept external group referrals as well, because the groups are for psychosocial connection, but it's also an early intervention approach where sometimes young people come and try out the group, build trust, and then talk to one of our workers to actually help them make an appointment. And that's where the peer work element comes in. Like we've got a really great peer worker, and he uses his lived experience to build connection and understanding with young people going through their mental health journey here. But it also gives them hope that that he's been where they've been before, and now he's doing really great, and so they build quite a good rapport with him. So he's a really fundamental part of our service, and we've integrated the peer work role really closely with the rest of the team. Like we didn't want it seeming like this, clinicians and then there's the peer worker. Like he's actually very much a very central part and a respected part of our team for his expertise. So another thing that we did was kind of put an EOY for young people and their parents on our website, because we thought it might be limiting for people to only be getting referrals in between 9 and 5. Like sometimes a young person might be looking around at websites at like 9 p.m. and wanting to refer themselves somewhere, I feel like, yeah, and we've been getting quite a few referrals through the EOI process, like through our website, of young people doing an expression of interest that they want to be contacted, and maybe it helps them by putting it there that it's in motion, and they'll get a phone call from our admin staff to try and help them navigate accessing services. So that's been really handy. But yes, and a really important part of the service is our youth advisory group. I can't finish the talk without kind of talking about these amazing young people that meet once a month here at the centre. And they're young people, a lot of them have lived experience or have access services. And some, have, some, they're quite young, like they range between, I guess, 14 and like 20, most of them. And they kind of like boss us around in the best possible way about how to keep our service relevant to what young people are wanting today, and what we can do in our service to make it more inclusive, and so that we're up to date with, I guess, Gen Z. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's Headspace Camperdown. I could continue talking about it, but I won't, because we need to hear from other centres. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and happy to answer them when it's the right time.
Amazing. Thank you, Vicky. That was a great overview. I will move along to Hertzville, so I'll pass that to Ed.
Hi everyone, I'm Ed. I'm the clinical manager over at Headspace in Hurstville. So yeah, we have a similar setup to a lot of the other centres, obviously, but with a few differences. The core team is largely the same. So we have actually at the moment a dedicated intake clinician, which is maybe a little bit different from the other centres. That's a reasonably new role, so they'll be doing 5 days of intake work, where the youth access clinicians have a bit of a split role. So they do some intake work and then also some of the brief intervention counselling that was mentioned a bit earlier. We also have a small consortium of private practitioners, so they can see young people for up to 10 sessions per calendar year under a mental health care plan, which is where the GP referrals come in. That's no cost, so it's bulk billed. And they get 10 per calendar year, so that can refresh in cases where it's clinically appropriate to extend out the care. There is an opportunity for people who might be coming later in the year to actually get a little bit more, which is really, really fantastic. We also have a salaried mental health clinician role, so they're very not a lot of FTE equivalent, so kind of limited spaces, but they are able to provide a bit of a longer term care model for young people, and prioritizing those who might actually have trouble with things like accessing mental health care plans, or there might be issues with citizenship, accessing Medicare, maybe medical trauma, maybe issues with family, being aware of health records and things like that. So we try and prioritize young people with psychosocial complexity, comorbidity, but also with barriers to accessing care into that stream. We have a GP 1 day a week with us. She's with us on a Tuesday. That's Dr. Sylvia Jung. We've also got, as Vicky mentioned, a community engagement coordinator who does a lot of fantastic work as well. Workshops with schools, GP event networking as well, running some social groups, which I'll speak to in a sec. They're our sort of our face out in the community. So a lot of schools and presentations and whatnot too. We're also in the process of hiring for a school space clinician. So this is a program we've run in the past, and we're really excited to get back up again this year. So that will be a school-based clinician for 2 schools in the region for 2 terms at a time. So each year they'll be servicing 2 different schools. And they'll essentially be able to provide the brief intervention counselling out of a school, so based out of a counselling room in the school. We found that sometimes there are barriers for young people actually just coming to the centre or making their way after school. And yeah, through working with the schools, we found that if we could actually co-locate in the school, it can be an extra sort of referral pathway in there for the school as well. So we're not haven't locked in which schools that's going to be extended out to this year, but you can keep your eyes posted on our socials and newsletters to see if potentially a patient of yours might be at a school that program is being offered at. So our consortium, our wider sort of team, that includes our CASPAR team. So they were the comprehensive assessment service for psychosis and at-risk young people. So again, that missing middle cohort now is what they support with. They're co-located across the Hurstville, Miranda, and Bondi sites. We can refer to them internally should a young person come through intake and we think that they would benefit from that level of support. Or referrals can also be made by other agencies through the mental health access line. We also have an alcohol and other drugs clinician co-located through the local health district. They do half a day per week at the moment. Historically, we haven't had a very high number of people access or wanting to access alcohol and other drug support through Hurstville. So we found that it kind of meets the need for now, but this all fluctuates based on demand. We also have a family therapist 1 day per fortnight through Interrelate. They can work with families of young people. That might include the young person. It might just include any parents or caregivers in the home. That's been very, very popular recently, which is good to see. We are currently in between employment providers at the moment. So for young people, looking for work, help with study. We don't currently have a co-located employment provider. However, we're hoping that changes pretty soon. For the meantime, we can link them in with the Headspace Work and Study, which was mentioned a bit earlier, the online platform. And there's also a mentoring program available through Headspace Work and Study, which is really good. We've had very good things about it. So for the social groups, which are facilitated by the community engagement coordinator, we have it's called Game Space. It's a video and board gaming drop-in social group. We found there's quite a few young people who in late high school, even moving out of high school, or young neurodivergent people who might have either had troubles with engaging or have troubles finding opportunities to make meaningful social connections. That space was set up for them. It was originally set up as maybe more of a video gaming group, but we found that the board games are what everyone really craves. Everyone wants that social connection. We've had quite a consistent core group come through that. We're very friendly and welcoming. So any young people who come through who we think could use a bit of that psychosocial engagement and some positive social connections, we get them to drop in, and that's been a really big success. We are also looking at starting up co-leading a GLSEN social group for LGBTQIA plus young people that will be coming out starting later in the year. And again, that'll be a psychosocial group of social engagement and building connections there too. We currently don't have any clinical groups. We'd love to we're looking at running some later in the year. We'd love to run a few more clinical groups. We don't currently offer any at the moment, but we'd love for that to change soon. And like a lot of other Headspace centres, very short walk from the station. Parking in Hurstville is a little bit of a nightmare, so really good to get public transport where you can. That is us at Hurstville.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ed. I'll pass it over to Adrian.
Yeah, so our team at Miranda is fairly similar to Hurstville, and probably a bit similar to the other ones too. So I guess Miranda's snapshot is probably going to be a bit quicker. But yeah, so we have intake clinicians, we have youth access clinicians that do the brief intervention model. They're usually counsellors or provisional psychologists or early career social workers. We also are recruiting for a mental health clinician. So yeah, similar to Earthfield and the other sites as well. They tend to work with people that are needing more than that initial 6 to 10 sessions. With that, we have complex presentations and then long-term support. We do currently have 2 private practitioners that work under the mental health care plan, and we're also recruiting for additional contractors. We're pretty flexible with that model as well. So whilst it's 10 sessions per calendar year, we can extend that for the next calendar year. So some practitioners have been working with young people for more than the 10 sessions. We also have a GP, Dr. Meredith Williams. She's on site every Monday. We also have a community engagement coordinator that does all the things that the other guys have mentioned. We also have, we're recruiting for a school space clinician, so similar to what Ed was saying, providing counselling groups at local schools in the Sutherland Shire region. In terms of our consortium, it's similar to Hurstville. We work quite closely with Interimate. We have a family therapist that comes here once a fortnight. We're also running parent groups. So we've got a tuning to teens program coming up in March. And also just general parent workshops that we run usually every school term. We're also we're also engaged with the CASPA team, the drug and alcohol clinician that I mentioned earlier, and also looking at work and study options as well. We're also looking for a service that can work with Miranda and Hurstville. In terms of our groups, so I guess it's similar to other centres, but we do have a large demographic that identify within the LGBTQIA plus community. At the moment, I think the latest stats were over 1 in 4 young people identify in that group. We also get a lot of young people wanting to, I guess, explore their gender and their identity. We also find a lot of correlation with neurodiverse young people. So we do offer a social group for that population. So it's called Pride Space. We run that every month. I'm assuming this is still correct, but I might be wrong. But historically, it's been the only support group for that demographic in the Sutherland Shire region for that age range as well. So it's quite a popular one. And again, we do activities. If there's certain events that's related to that population, they might be doing things related to that. It's just generally a very supportive and safe space for them to get together and to connect. We're also in the process of organising a walking group down at Cronulla Beach. And we're also in partnership with Curie Library and running some workshops down there too. And we're also looking at potentially running clinical groups later in the year. And then in terms of location, so we're right next to Westfield Miranda, which is pretty central for South Sydney. And we're close to the train station too. Similar to other sites, in terms of making a referral, we do have referral forms on our website. But you can also just contact us, the number, and be directed to one of our intake clinicians. yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Adrian. Just quickly before questions, I'll pass it to Ed, who's just going to talk through making a referral.
Yeah, thanks, Brenna. So for making a referral, it's going to, I guess, in general, vary a little bit from site to site. But as somebody mentioned earlier, anybody can make a referral over to Headspace. Young people or families can self-refer, but they can also be referred by a provider, including yourselves as general practitioners. Generally, the service provider referrals can be very helpful. There's like a lot more information that can be included. It just helps coordinate care and speed up the pathway and the assessment process for a young person. So on the slide, you will have the websites, which would all have links to the referral forms, but I believe some of the PDFs of the referral forms are up there too. There should be self-referral forms and service provider ones for each site. So I'd be going towards the service provider ones where they're available. Yeah, as Adrian mentioned as well, some sites you may be able to call through. It will just it'll vary depending on your closest site. And in general, at least this is the case for Hurstville and Miranda, we try and respond to referrals within 24 to 48 hours. For us over at Hurstville and Miranda too, we have had a bit of a recent change in the way that our intakes are handled. So if things are taking a little longer on our end, please bear with us as we figure through the bits and pieces of that process. But that is making a referral in a nutshell, and all the details are up on the slide.
Cool. Thanks, Ed. Belinda, are there any questions after all of that?
There are a few. And kind of relates to referral pathways or access. So for Camperdown, you mentioned that you're near university accommodation. So does Camperdown see international students or overseas students that are attending the centre, or do you need to have a Medicare card?
We do. So a third of our current cohort are Sydney uni students. A lot of those are international students. One of our previous practice managers had set up a bit of an agreement with their insurers. So a lot of the usage students are with Allianz. So when the young people come, it's kind of been set up that we can kind of use their insurance, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they can access services, and because a lot of the international students have to have insurance to be at university. For other international students wanting to access care that may be in various other predicaments, I mean, they can see our clinicians who aren't like Medicare clinicians, MBS clinicians, because we have some salaried clinicians as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vicky. This is just well, it's kind of like a catch-all. I know the answer will be slightly different, but it was around wait lists. Is there generally a wait list for people to be accessing help at Headspace?
I can speak on behalf of Camperdown. It depends what service, because we've got OTs with the GPs, we've got the mental health, therapists, things like the groups. They don't usually, it's like a week or two. At the moment, our wait list for therapy is up to about 2 to 3 months. But in terms of young people coming in for an initial intake, they get seen between 1 to 2 weeks. But it's also good for the GPs to know that during that time they are getting check-ins from the YACs, the youth access clinicians, and they are, if appropriate, being linked into other services while they are waiting to get their one-to-one therapy.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vicky. So it sounds like if people are looking to refer people to a particular centre, it's probably best to give that centre a call because there will be individual differences, I suppose, around, like you said, what exactly the person is trying to access. But it sounds like people get seen fairly quickly and then they're supported while they might be waiting for a particular service in a centre.
I thought I
Julia,
might,
yeah,
yeah,
jump in.
I
Yep,
keep
I can
nodding
see
no.
you're ready to say something. Yep.
Yeah, just because there's been, I mean, previously we've had pretty long wait lists, but more recently, in terms of it depends on the service. So, but at the moment, so similar to other services, if you want a treatment planning session, like that first appointment could be booked in within 1 to 2 weeks. And early treatment sessions can commence straight away. If further counselling is needed, our wait time is relative. It's not too bad at the moment, so it's uh, probably around 2 to 4 weeks at the moment. Our PSS clinician also has capacity to be taking on clients in regards to if there's anything that's coming out in regards to the Bondi incident. Our AOD worker, and this is all off the top of my head, but it's actually on our website. We only updated it about, I think it would be about a week ago now. So roughly the wait time's around 2 to 4 weeks for most of the services, including our family therapist and the AOD worker. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
So it sounds like there's wait time information available on the individual centre websites too for some of those
Yeah.
services. So that's a good place to get up-to-date information on that. And there was a question around cost. So I think it's safe to say that all Headspace services are free to access different services or free or low cost. I think there might be some programs in the centres that might be low cost.
Yeah.
But generally it's yeah, a free
And I think you'll
service.
hear a lot of us talking about funding. Like we'll say,
Yep.
oh, it's this funding stream and that funding stream. And I guess the reason we're talking of this funding stream is to, in other words, it's free. Like it's coming from, whether it's coming from the PHN or whether it's, coming from Medicare, it's bulk billed or it's free to the young person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's it for the questions. I think we're kind of right on time actually to move on to the next section.
Awesome. Then I'll pass it
Not back to me.
over to you, Belinda, who's going to go through stepped care.
Thanks, Brenna. So we thank you to everyone from the centres for talking about what you do and the wonderful work that you do and the nuances between the different centres. Obviously, Headspace is a national brand and a national program that's funded by the Commonwealth. But as someone mentioned earlier, each centre is run by a different kind of parent organisation or lead agency. So there are slight differences. So all centres deliver the 4 core streams, which we've kind of covered and given you some examples of. But there are different nuances from the centres that sometimes relate to the lead agency that kind of supports them, like Vicky was talking about. Being led by a university means that there's quite a lot of research that happens at that particular centre that may not be happening at other centres. So we thought just to give you kind of, let's place Headspace in the broader context of stepped care so you kind of understand where Headspace fits. So obviously Headspace is one type of service within the health sector. And the Commonwealth Government talks a lot about stepped care. And the idea of stepped care is trying to make sure that when people are help seeking and accessing care, they're getting the level of care that they need to address their problem or their issues or whatever they're kind of presenting with. And in general, there's kind of 5 levels of care that we talk about, and step care is about trying to match the right level of care for a person so that they're not being overserviced and they're not being underserviced, and we're trying to match exactly what they need. So if you move to the next slide, please, Brenna. The few of the team mentioned their youth enhanced services. So you heard HEAT and you heard Casper. So Headspace is traditionally that mild to moderate mental health and health needs kind of space. But over the years, things have changed, and what we've noticed is young people are presenting with more complexity and need more support. And in response to that, that extra demand at Headspace, there's been lots of funding being given to that missing middle that people refer to, or the youth enhanced services. So within our 5 Headspace centres in the Cessford region, we have those 2 programs that are able to work with young people who have more complex needs that aren't suitable for the hospital-based community mental health teams, but need more kind of wraparound support and multidisciplinary team care that can be provided from the general core Headspace staff that everybody was just kind of referring to. So those services are available, and to access those services, the person needs to be referred into the Headspace environment. It can be flagged at the time of referral that you think that somebody might need more kind of comprehensive support, or just through the normal referral pathways of a Headspace centre, the teams will assess what that person needs and then step up the care to the youth enhanced services teams to be able to give that more kind of comprehensive intervention. Next slide, please, Brenna. The other thing that the Department of Health has developed to kind of assist people in working out what level of care somebody needs is this initial assessment and referral guidance document, which is available on the department's website, and we will give you all the links to the various things that we're kind of talking about today. But they developed an IAR guidance to help people and referrers try and understand when someone is presenting with mental health needs, what level of support is required and what kind of service would be the best service for that person. So when you're contemplating things like, is Headspace the most appropriate service? Does this person need something more intense? Then the IAR guidance that's been developed can assist people in doing that. And I'm just going to quickly run through what it is. And like I said, give you the links at the end so you can access all the information. But this is really just a bit of an overview of a tool that you could be using to assist you to work out where you'd like to kind of recommend people to go and help seek. So the guidance has got 8 domains and 5. It recommends 5 levels of care, and I showed you those before. And the idea of it is to really provide stepped care, as I mentioned, around avoiding underservicing and overservicing of people. The IAR isn't an assessment tool, and it's not prognostic or predictive, and it's definitely not a diagnostic tool. And it doesn't replace your clinical judgment and also the preferences of the client that you're working with. But what it is just a guidance document to make sure that people are considering all aspects of what's happening for a person before they make a recommendation as to where they might send somebody to help seek. Next slide, please, Brenna. So these are the 8 domains. So the 4 are about the kind of the clinical presentation, the symptom severity, whether there's any harm, level of functioning, and any coexisting conditions like physical health or substance use disorders. And then the other 4 domains 5 to 8, talk about the contextual factors that people have that would, again, impact on what level of support that they might need in their help seeking. So have they seen someone before? Was it helpful? What's happening in their lives? Do they have family support? Are there legal issues going on? how motivated are they to actually access help? And so all of those contextual factors are really important in determining where you might recommend for someone to go and receive some help for their mental health concerns. Next slide, please. And what the IR guidance does, well, actually, there's a tool attached to the guidance. It's called the Decision Support Tool. So, again, available at various places, but on the department website, is the Decision Support Tool. So once you've kind of assessed all of those 8 domains around a person's presentation, you rate them on those 8 domains, and then it will recommend a level of care when you use the Decision Support Tool. And that level of care could be any one of these 5 levels of care. And obviously that is then discussed with the young person, their family, as to whether or not they agree that that's the kind of level that they require. And then you can think about whether Headspace or some other services are the most appropriate place for these young people to be receiving help. Now, the IAR-DST is something that we've been training GPs and allied health professionals in using probably for over 3 years now. I think it's been something that PHNs were asked to kind of help deliver. And it's a quick training session, but again, it's just another tool that people can be using to help with their decision making around where to refer people for support. Next slide. And since July last year, there's 4 versions of the IAR Decision Support Tool. There's a version for young children up to the age of 11, adolescents, adults, and older adults. In essence, the 8 domains are the same, but there's slight differences in the ratings and the recommendations depending on the age of the person, because obviously there's certain considerations such as, for older adults, it might be being able to distinguish between delirium, dementia, mental health issues. And for adolescents, again, it's around understanding the developmental needs and differences and presentations and being more sensitive to risk for that cohort. So there's different versions for the different ages. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea again of that kind of landscape within that IAR stepped care framework. So our Headspace centres are traditionally more that level 2 to level 3 in the recommended levels of care. Level 1 is more of that self-management. So that could be like where you recommend online platforms like This Way Up to manage anxiety, other digital services. It could be school-based care, it could be fact sheets depending on level of motivation and engagement in help seeking. It could be regular just check-ins with yourself for kind of like monitoring how they're kind of progressing with their own self-management. And that youth enhanced services that we mentioned, that's moving into that level 4 or more high intensity care. So if you did the IAR-DST and it said level 4, then something like the Caspar and heat services would be potentially appropriate for the person that you're looking for support. Obviously, GPs, private practitioners, and private psychiatrists, they work along the spectrum and are seeing people with greater complexity purely because, we don't have enough resourcing in our health system to be able to support everybody necessarily, but we're trying to move towards that stepped care model and matching people to the level of care that they need. And then in level 5, it's typically child and adolescent mental health services that are run by the hospitals and other tertiary care services that exist in our region. Next slide, please. So I know that was like a whirlwind tour of IAR, but really we wanted to kind of, obviously we've given you information about what Headspace does, what's provided at each of our centres, and kind of place that in the context of stepped care, and what the IAR-DST is. But I appreciate that's a lot of information to take in one webinar. So if you want more information, again, we'll provide you with information. If you want some training in the IAR, there is online training. There's also e-learning modules that have now been developed. We'll send all of this information out to you, so that you have it available. And next slide. And so I guess the last part really is that I guess some of the feedback we received in our training was that even though you might understand, you might use the tool like the IAR-DST, and it might recommend a level of care. And today we've kind of helped you understand where Headspace fits and where some of the services within a Headspace centre fit in that stepped care continuum, but not, you might not be really aware of what level of care other services provide. So I just wanted to also let you know that CESFN has a mental health services directory, and in that directory we've got a variety of services that have been mapped to that IAR level of care, and there is a filter option on the left-hand side, you can see in that image, where you can select the level of care and the website will live filter to show you services that fall within that, and you can look at age groups, population types, or the type of intervention that you're after. There's clinical services in there, there's psychosocial and other services, and there's also some suicide prevention services and crisis services that you can look through and to work out whether or not the service you're thinking about referring to is the right service for the person that's help seeking, or this could be for yourself if you're help seeking. And inbuilt into this directory, we've launched recently a wait time function where we're asking services to update their wait times, because I guess the other kind of feedback that we get is that even though you might find the right service, sometimes it's not appropriate because the wait time might be too long for the individual, and then you need to go and find alternative services. So we're trying to update this fairly regularly so that it provides wait time information to help with that decision making around helping people access the level of support that they need. I think that's it. Next slide. I think, Bren, we're kind of at the end. So we will just kind of ask for any final questions, obviously, right at the end. But just before we move into last questions, again, we'll share this information, but if you do want any further information around just Headspace in general, or our Youth Enhanced Services program, Wilhelmina, who's not here today, she's our team lead in the child and youth space, or Brenna, who is here, that their details are up on the page. The link to the mental health service directory is there, but I think Bertha, I've just noticed, I think has popped things into the chat. But if we can share that with you if you can't see that. And also the links to the IAR training if you're interested in learning more about what I was talking about there. We've got information on our website and an email address you can also be emailing.
Yeah, so that's it. And I just wanted to say thank you to the speakers and attendees for joining us on Tuesday night. And just a reminder to complete the online survey that will pop up in your web browser. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you online soon. Thanks so much for joining us.